OMG, boundaries, y'all. I don't know what is in the water, but boundaries are coming up everywhere lately. They're coming up with my clients, they're coming up in my groups, they're coming up in my personal life. And it is just like all of the triggers, all of the confusion, all of the socialization about boundaries. It's all coming up lately. So we're going to talk about boundaries. And specifically, we're going to talk about something that came up today in a group call that I was leading that was about the idea that the reason we need boundaries is actually because of the tender, positive instincts we have. So I'm not going to share exactly what the situation was because it's not mine to share, but this was a situation where someone had boundaries trampled that they had tried to express, and uh, the reason that they were manipulated into not holding the boundary they wanted was because of a positive instinct, a protective instinct, a desire to take care of someone, and that ended up coming into conflict with the boundary. And so we talked about that in that situation, what could happen differently. But it just really brought up this idea that the reason that we need boundaries is so that it can be safe to be vulnerable. So it can be safe to have these pro-social instincts to take care of each other, to take care of children, to take care of ourselves so that we can share and we can connect deeply, and that can feel safe and not threatening. Because when there's not good boundaries, then that vulnerability can become a doorway to control, to manipulation, to harm. It can be turned against us and weaponized. And if you're watching this, and if you've ever struggled with boundaries, or if you've ever struggled with someone in your life where you express a boundary and they try to push, or they try to override it, or they tell you you're not allowed to have that boundary, or they tell you your boundary is wrong, or that you're too sensitive, or that you shouldn't have that boundary. If any of those things have ever happened for you, then you've had an experience of where you needed a boundary in order for it to be safe for you to have those tender instincts. And those tender instincts are really important, right? Those are what allow us to deeply connect. Those are what allow us to take care of each other, to be in community, to be in partnerships, in families, to care for children. Those are what make life meaningful. And those are what make us function as social creatures. We need to be tender. We need to be vulnerable and open. We need the connection that can happen when we're able to express those deeper parts of ourselves. And we need to know that it's safe to do that. We need to know where the containers are, that when we share those deep parts of ourselves, they'll be held with compassion and kindness and understanding, that they will be held with connection, and that they won't be used to manipulate us or to extract something from the relationship. So I wanted to offer that as a bit of a reframe, because a lot of us are socialized with the idea that boundaries mean disconnection. That boundaries mean like shutting the door in somebody and not letting them in. And so you can't possibly connect if you have a boundary. You can't have close relationships and have boundaries. And a lot of that is because we're not socialized to have healthy boundaries. And so by the time we set a boundary, it's at the point where we're like, you know what? Get out. I don't even want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to have anything to do with you, because it just feels bad. And that kind of a boundary can be disconnecting. And sometimes we need that, because not every relationship is safe to be vulnerable. So I want to honor that sometimes those kinds of no, stay away, boundaries are really, really important. And sometimes we can have the boundaries in relationships that are otherwise safe and healthy that are actually make the room for connection. So like one example is with a partner or a close friend who would feel like a good person to open up to about something that's bothering you or upsetting you, frustrating you, and have them listen and understand and get it. And we all need those. We all need those relationships where we can do that. We can talk about what's on our minds and get somebody, to hear us and understand us and really get it. And if you're the partner or the friend or the therapist or the coach or whoever is holding that listening space, and it's like, oh God, every time I see this person, they want to like dump on me for hours and I can't escape and I can't get away and I can't even like get up and go to the bathroom. And I'm like on edge. Are they going to call me or text me? Because it's always like they always are wanting to dump on me and I can't always be available for that. Right. So if there's a boundary of the person who wants to share is going to check first, are you available to listen? And the person who's going to listen is able to have a boundary on, I need to use the bathroom first, and then I can listen for 20 minutes, but then I'm going to need a break. And if those kinds of boundaries can be negotiated so that both people get their needs met, then it can actually open up the space where the person listening can really listen because they know it's only going to be for 20 minutes and it's not going to be, constantly without warning. They need to be available emotionally all the time, which is not something anybody can or should hold. And the person who's sharing is going to know that they don't need to be like grasping at that opportunity to share because they're going to have it with full presence when the person's available, and that there's going to be communication about it. So there's never a like, I don't know, can I now? And so it actually creates, the boundaries actually create the container in which somebody can be so fully and authentically vulnerable about what they're experiencing, and somebody can really listen and be present, and they can really connect in that space without it becoming a burden for either person. And so those are the kinds of boundaries that healthy relationships have. Healthy relationships generally don't need a don't ever talk to me again boundary because they mostly feel good. Healthy relationships need the kind of boundaries where everybody involved feels like they can say what's true for them and they can get their needs met, and they don't need somebody else to sacrifice their own needs in order to get my needs met. And we could talk about so many aspects of why this is hard in reality. We all have our own experiences of boundaries growing up and the things we were socialized with about what boundaries mean. We all have, whatever our current communication skills are and whether or not they're sufficient to navigate and negotiate these things. We have, figuring out whether or not a relationship is healthy enough to have room for these kinds of boundaries and this kind of negotiation without blame or shame or manipulation. We have whether there are enough layers of support. So if I'm the one listening in this situation and my friend comes to me and says, I need to share about something, can I? And I'm like, you know what? I have had such a day. I'm exhausted. I really can't listen right now. That I know that friend has other people, that I know that other friend is going to have other people they can reach out to. So it's really important that there are multiple layers of support, right? If I'm the only person that person can open up to and I can't right now, then we have a problem. Then not everybody's needs are getting met, right? But if that person has like 6 other people they can go ask, then it's like, oh, cool, no big deal. You take care of you today and I'll be back. All right, so we will circle back on some of those other pieces about how to navigate all of those layers of boundaries and how to figure out where you need your boundaries and what boundaries are, because this, like I said, this is coming up everywhere. So the first thing I'll say is if you have questions about this, if you have questions about applying boundaries, put them in the comments, and that will give me direction about what things to talk about next. What are the things that are your struggles? The next thing that I'll say is I am currently offering a free healing story circle, which is a small group opportunity for this kind of a container to share and get support about whatever it is that's coming up for you. And that link is in the show notes. But jengerardy.com, jengerardy.com. And then the code is HSC for me. And that's also on the website. So that's a really good way to figure out or to have that kind of a container and space for yourself. And you can try one for free and see what that's all about without any kind of pressure or obligation. Just come join us and be in community, and yeah, reach out with any of your questions and how I can support you with whatever's coming up and boundaries in your own life. And good luck, because it's a whole big thing, and we're all figuring it out and navigating it together.